Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rowing with the Homies. I'm Finlos. I hope you're finding some moments today to get in a little movement, to find your rhythm, your focus, whatever that looks like for you. And as always, I'm so glad you're choosing to spend this time with me. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to grow up, because obviously it's more complex than just accumulating birthdays and years or more and more responsibilities. I'm curious about a deeper kind of maturation, something like a balancing act that feels both challenging and rewarding. I want to be a balanced adult, and I wonder what that looks like, because to be truthful, I don't know how many people I encounter that is balanced. So what does that look like? Maybe somebody who can hold complexity, can engage in difficult but crucial conversations that lead to growth. Someone who can genuinely consider the needs and impact they have on others. Someone who can hear challenges and feedback with grace and humility, and also be honest with the people in their life. All of this while somehow maintaining an excitement for life and a desire to continuously explore and never settling. It's a lot, but that really has been on my mind, and I'm wondering what that might look like. And to be honest, much of this reflection, these thoughts, the understanding of what this uncomfortable grace looks like comes directly from the ongoing, layered, complex conversations I have with my partner Eva as we continue to learn and grow, both as individuals and as fixtures in each other's lives. Our discussions about our experiences, our careers, our roles as parents, and the people who come into our individual and shared networks. We are constantly sharing our thoughts and our experiences, looking for advice and feedback, and challenging one another to reconsider actions and decisions, and to genuinely be the people who we want to be. And that's what I'm going to dig into today. And remember that this space, Rowing with the Homies, connects what's happening out there in the world, whether it's a major news event, a big philosophical question, or a piece of media that makes us think, with what's happening right here within our own minds and our own bodies and our experiences. We're finding the link between the external landscape and our internal one. So again, this idea of growing up is what's been on my mind. And it's not just about age or responsibilities, is it? It's maturity, and maturation is a continuous process of becoming, of shedding old skins and embracing new ways of being. I've been really thinking about what a balanced adult embodies. Someone who isn't perfect, but is actively engaged in holding life's complexities, fostering genuine connections, and maintaining a vibrant curiosity for the world and themselves. For me, a living, breathing example of this journey and a constant source of learning is this ongoing conversation I share with my partner, Eva. I keep coming back to it because, A, it's true, but I think accountability is at the heart of maturity, because it's easy enough to say we are one thing, but it's an entirely different thing to have somebody standing beside us to say, yeah, I see that, or maybe you should think about that again. So I think that having people in our lives who are aware that they are also on this journey, aware that even as we accumulate experience, that there's always room for growth, that these people are who are going to really help us to find out the versions of ourselves that we want to be. And I'm so incredibly thankful to have a partner who is absolutely uncompromising in their pursuit of rightness, of making sure that who they are is always in tandem with who they say they are. And that is such an incredibly powerful thing to have. But let's look at what maturity, at least from my perspective and from my collection of experiences, should look like. And this is obviously subjective, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure if what I'm saying is a universal idea. And that's okay. But these are the things that I have observed as the hallmarks of what a person who is engaging in the process of growth, who is pursuing that mindset of maturation. These are the things that I've seen. And first is an ability to hold complexity, embracing nuance, ambiguity. It's the ability to say, this situation is both good and bad, or I can love someone deeply and still disagree with them fundamentally. It's resisting the urge for simplicity, for binary answers, for an understanding that most of life operates in areas of nuance, of the complexities of understanding. We find ourselves constantly navigating these complex spaces where there isn't really always a single right answer, but maybe where there can be a complex and layered truth. It's an ability to hold difficult conversations that happen over time. It's an understanding that conversations don't just occur and then fade away. Conversations should be ongoing and should become more nuanced and have the capacity for greater meaning over time. It's having the courage to lean into discomfort for the sake of growth. It's the ability to ask the question, can you tell me more about that? Knowing that it will deepen the relationship. It will deepen understanding. It's the ability to consider others' needs and the impact of your own actions on others, your own behaviors on others, your own ideas on others. Moving beyond self-centeredness to try to understand how our actions ripple outwards. Before speaking, pausing to think, how might this land for the person across from me? How might my actions that I'm considering taking impact not just the immediate people in my life, but the people beyond them? What are this person's needs? Am I acting with empathy? Am I considering the needs of the relationship and not just the needs of the situation? It requires checking in, and it requires holding conversations again to reflect on the choices and the actions that we all make. It's an ability to receive feedback with grace and with flexibility. And this is really hard because, especially as somebody raised as a male, defensiveness is always a quick response to criticism. But what we need is a capacity to hear challenges to our perspectives, to our behaviors, to our ideations without defensiveness. Instead of immediately moving to explain or justify something, instead receiving the commentary with gratitude and an ability to say, I think I might need to sit with that for a bit. It requires an ability to shift our perspectives or our approaches to things, with an understanding that all of this is housed in a goal of mutual understanding and improvement. Maturity requires honesty, both with ourselves and with others. The courage to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And it starts with radical honesty with ourselves, acknowledging our fears, our limitations, our desires, our needs, and then extending that honesty to others gently but firmly, setting boundaries or expressing needs, even if it feels risky. Ongoing dialogue should be built on that foundation of honesty, even when it gets challenging, because it's essential for connection. As we get older, some people, sometimes me, it's easy to become rigid or cynical because all of this is a lot and life is a lot. But a mature, balanced adult retains a desire, a need for exploration, a spark of curiosity, a desire to continuously learn, to find newness, and never settle into intellectual or emotional stagnation. It could be finding a new hobby, learning a new skill, meeting new people, or just asking why. That newness is a fuel to help keep us going. And these ongoing, lifelong conversations, like what I have with my partner, what you have with the important people in your life, it's one, the conversation shouldn't end. It is a model for how all of our conversations with the people in my life should go. And this is sort of something that I've really had to grow into, and I'm still growing into. That if I choose to build a relationship, all relationships deserve the same care. Of course, different people, different degrees of closeness, different degrees of intimacy, different degrees of access, all of those things are true. But the qualities that I've been describing should be present. The honesty, the feedback, the care, the consideration, the questions, the curiosity. This key conversation for me, and what I'm arguing everyone should have in their life with somebody, with more than one person. These conversations are how we ensure that we are in fact growing, that we are in fact in relationships of support and care. Of course, there are things that can get in the way. Fear is top of mind. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of exposure and vulnerability, and the fear of losing control. And these are all powerful roadblocks. And it's really easy to avoid a difficult conversation. It's easier than taking the risk of upsetting somebody or being misunderstood. Our egos can get in the way, especially as many of us have a tendency to acknowledge fault, to understand that when we do wrong or when we cause harm, that apologizing is not enough, that healing takes time and care, and acknowledging that we all have blind spots. We all have things to work on. We all have ways in which we can grow. And it's understanding and remembering that truth that keeps receiving feedback from feeling like a personal attack rather than what it is, which is an opportunity. We all come to these conversations with how we were raised, the things we learned from models in our lives, and of course, unfortunately, many of us with quite severe traumas, emotional, physical, all of the above. We all carry patterns from our past, defense mechanisms, learned behaviors, unresolved traumatic experiences, and these can all unconsciously hinder our ability to engage openly, to be honest, or to adapt to new experiences and new information. They're like old programs that run in the background of our lives. They can cause glitches, they can cause errors, or if we're not careful, those old programs will run, and before we know it, we have fallen into old, unhealthy patterns. Growth and maturation is often uncomfortable. It's like shedding old skin. It requires confronting these habits, these beliefs that have served us in the past, but that are now holding us back. It's like a perpetual awkward phase. We feel clumsy. We feel unsure as we are moving in these new experiences and new spaces and new relationships. It can feel risky because we fear hurting each other and in turn being hurt ourselves. We fear being rejected or even causing tension. So we might avoid discomfort by being dishonest, telling white lies or less than truths, or just omitting information altogether. And these small dishonesties accumulate. They create distance. And to be honest with ourselves, for me to be honest with myself, is sometimes the hardest thing. It is within me, understanding my motive, understanding my blind spots, understanding my patterns and my own thoughts can sometimes be the most uncomfortable thing of all. But of course, the work is worth it. In this process of ongoing conversation, we have the moments when we receive or we earn or we find clarity. And those moments of clarity, the aha moments, are born out of complex, honest conversations. Relationships become richer and more resilient when they are built on vulnerability and honest engagement. The participants feel seen, understood, and connected. Over time, it really increases a sense of agency and the truth of agency, the feeling of being in control of our reactions to situations and the choices that we make amidst those reactions, even amid stress or tension or chaos. And ultimately, that leads us to being better able to manage our feelings and to be honest with our feelings and to be truthful in the world. And all of this really gets me thinking about how do we get here? Because it really is hard. And it's made only harder if, as children, as adolescents, those from whom we learn our initial patterns, our initial experiences, our initial lessons in communication and interaction, our parents, if we're lucky, but whoever those important, influential people in our lives might have been. There are models. And if those examples aren't great or problematic or are harmful, then we run the risk of perpetuating it. And of course, these aren't just parents. They're teachers, they're mentors, they're friends. They're the characters that we love and who feel like real people in our lives. They are the people who are present right now, like a partner, like our friends, anyone from whom we can absorb patterns of thinking, of feeling, and of behaving. We are all affecting each other. And we pick up so much, sometimes without even realizing it. The way someone handles conflict or expresses joy, deals with disappointment, they can become blueprints for better or worse in our own minds. So, I think it's a good practice to consider who our models are and were, and try to discern an evolving understanding of what is helpful, what do we want to keep, and what is it that we want to grow beyond. Because it's important to acknowledge and appreciate the positive lessons and strengths inherited from the models in our lives. Maybe a parent was really hard and abrasive in how they communicated, but they really taught you resilience and toughness. Maybe a teacher was soft and indulgent, but reinforced a lifelong love of learning. Maybe a friend was abrasive in groups, but one-on-one really showed you the impact of true kindness and reliability. And these are gifts to be carried. And even negative experiences can be valuable teachers. We can identify the things that we definitely don't want to repeat, the actions that we don't want to repeat, the things that hurt us that we don't want to repeat. And essential to this whole conversation is understanding that ideas and actions and thoughts and behaviors are always occurring as part of a greater pattern. Thought patterns, emotional responses, behaviors. And we can identify those that no longer serve us or are even detrimental. Again, requires honesty and self-awareness. And the process of unlearning and relearning is uncomfortable but necessary, and it means actively choosing new patterns. It means practicing. It means thinking. It means engaging with yourself and then engaging with those who are close to you and asking for feedback and giving feedback. And then going back, thinking about it again, practicing it again and over and over. And as we grow, this is really important because we inevitably become models for others, whether we intend to or not. Our children, our friends, our partners, our colleagues, we affect them, we impact them, they observe us. And the obvious answer, or the obvious example, is as parents, where our every action, our every reaction, every word shapes the developing mind of our kids. But it's also true in friendships and partnerships. We're influencing each other constantly. We are negotiating. We are fighting. We are arguing. We are laughing. We are playing. And all of these interactions become data points and points of reference and examples within the larger pattern of our lives. We're both training each other how we want to be treated, but also training ourselves to learn how they want to be treated. And it's reciprocal in that way. It's important to avoid falsity and facade, to be vulnerable and to share, and to be honest with the difficulty as it comes up. And as we consider ourselves as models, the same things that we discussed as learning how to be mature are the exact same things that we should be demonstrating and modeling for others as examples for how we want to be and seen and engage with the world. We should be transparent. We should show grace in our imperfection. We should be actively listening and showing care. We should be pursuing new information and new opportunities for learning and curiosity. And we should be engaging in these difficult conversations. This is the only way that we're not just role-playing maturity, but we are actually engaging with it. We are actually becoming it. And it's not about perfection, because we will always slip and we will always make mistakes. I do, all the time. But we can recognize it as it's happening and do better to avoid it in the future. But it's still scary. And it can be intimidating. It can feel overwhelming, especially as we are in the midst of these challenging conversations, knowing what to say, knowing how to react, knowing or not knowing, honestly, how things are going to turn out. And that really leads me into the final segment of Today Depression Feels Like. And as we're discussing these profoundly challenging processes, as we layer on our own emotional and mental states on top of the complexity of these conversations. Sometimes it feels like being a kid again, being a child, and not knowing exactly what to do. As adults, we're often expected to have the answers, to make the right decisions, to navigate complex situations with confidence. But sometimes when depression sets in, our sense of agency dissipates and we're left feeling small and unsure, like a child. Being an adult means making decisions with consequences. The stakes are high, and the right path is rarely clear, or if not clear, then rarely easy to achieve, perhaps. When depression is present, that burden of choice can feel amplified. As children, when faced with uncertainty, we instinctively turn to the adults in our lives. We look to them for guidance, and hopefully they provide the reassurance that we look for and that we need. But as adults, it feels like sometimes we are alone in the midst of these decisions. And if we're lucky, we do have people to whom we can turn for advice and to explore the complexities of the decision. But it doesn't make necessarily the act of choosing easier, or of planning what's necessary to complete the action easier. Sometimes we're unconsciously living out patterns inherited from models that don't serve us, like people-pleasing, like perfectionism, like conflict avoidance. And those things further drain our energy and lead to hopelessness. Depression can often manifest as a loss of joy, curiosity, of the desire to explore. And those losses only amplify the indecisiveness that we feel. But even in depression, we can find small ways to be honest with ourselves about what we're feeling or what might be contributing to it. Sometimes we, in our avoidance, don't reach out for the support that we might need. Sometimes in our fear and our anxiety, we isolate ourselves. Sometimes we get angry and we blame others for the frustration. So recognizing that we might need help from friends, from family, from our partners, from our therapists, that is a form of maturity. That is a form of strength. And even if in doing so it makes us feel immature or weak, it's actually a sign of resiliency. It's embodying the ideas that we've been talking about, the understanding that we exist in networks, even if we feel alone. And so we ask ourselves, even when we're feeling low, can we engage in tiny acts of curiosity, tiny acts of movement, tiny actions which can help us to gain momentum, and remember that we have options. We do have choices, even if we don't know what the outcomes of those choices will be. Feeling small, feeling alone are human experiences. And depression only makes them worse. Depression is a state. It's an experience. It's not a character flaw. We're not here to fix it, but rather to understand how we might, through these feelings, find ways to grow and to learn about ourselves and who we are. And ultimately about being compassionate and kind to ourselves, to engaging in the process. And understanding that even when I feel like a child, alone, in the dark, there is support to be had. We're all navigating internal and external landscapes. If any of what we discussed today resonated with you, whether it's feeling that spark of curiosity about your own growth, recognizing the influence of your models, or particularly if you're navigating the challenges of your own mental health, please know with absolute certainty that you are not alone. These experiences are a part of the human journey. Your feelings are real and they matter. If you're finding it hard to navigate these feelings, please consider reaching out, talking to a trusted friend, a family member, or mentor, someone in your community. It can make a significant difference. And if you need more support, if these feelings are significantly impacting your life, please consider seeking professional help. Therapists, counselors, and mental health professionals are equipped to provide support and strategies to help you navigate these challenges. As always, I deeply value your time, your attention, and your willingness to engage with these topics. Please reach out if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions for the show. You can send me an email at finlos@finloslives.com. Find me on social media, or check out my website, finloslives.com. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you found today's conversation valuable, I'd be incredibly grateful if you'd consider sharing the show with anyone in your network who might also find it helpful or interesting. Thanks for being here with me today. I look forward to our next conversation.